Good morning. This is Thursday, the last day of our online learning, perhaps. Looks like we're going to be back in business on Monday. I've had a chance to look at many of your timelines, and it looks like you've got a great start. We've got the divisions laid out, the eras, and then the periods that make up the eras. Today, I want you to start drawing in some of the organisms that represent that spot on the timeline. So in this box for the Cambrian period, I want you to draw in animals that represent the Cambrian period of the Paleozoic. You can find those in your book. For example, the Pikaia. That is an example of the Cambrian explosion of life and how stuff started taking off. And you can't not love a trilobite. So those are kind of classic organisms from that period. So draw them in to the best of your ability. I'm not grading on art, but I don't just want stick figures either. Do the best you can. Color them however you think is appropriate, like colored pencils would be good. If the colors aren't exact, whatever, we don't know exactly what color they were anyway. That kind of thing isn't really recorded in the fossil record. We usually assume everything is kind of like dull, neutral earth colors, but maybe not, So in each period, I want you to pick out two organisms that would be representative of what was going on at that time. And so with the Cambrian explosion, then we get in the Ordovician, it's still everything's in the ocean, still everything is invertebrate, but we start to develop some the preliminary things of a backbone. And actually the Pikaia was the first thing that starts to have, it's called a notochord, but it's going to become a spinal cord in millions of years. Around about the Silurian, plants have built up the oxygen in the atmosphere so that life outside the water is possible. And the plants come out first, and then the animals come out afterwards. Animals don't come out for another couple million years. We've got spiders and arachnids, and the first true fish like the coelacanth, which it has jaws. It's not like the jawless fish of the Ordovician, but it's not quite what we think of as a bony fish anyway. The Devonian is the age of fishes, and we've got sharks and fish that we would recognize more, like that kind of looks like a trout, where in the Silurian, those fish didn't look like modern fish. And then we get to the Carboniferous, when there's so much lush vegetation. The continents were kind of clustered around the equator, like even Michigan was tropical during the Mississippian and the Pennsylvanian part of the Carboniferous period. That's when the lush forest that would develop into our coal beds and our oil fields, and our oil comes from marine plants and animals, but the coal forest. Because of those high oxygen levels, insects and arthropods got huge. They don't have as well developed of a respiratory system. They don't have lungs. So they can't get big because they have to take in their air from the outside. And so that limits the size they can get. But when oxygen levels were higher, then they could get bigger. And they had dragonflies the size of eagles, if you can imagine that. Scorpions the size of wolves. That's in the fossil record. In Scotland, there's tracks of a millipede. And one side, the feet on one side are about this wide from the feet on the other side. So imagine a millipede that's this wide. They estimated it would have been like 10 feet long. Imagine having that scurry under your couch or something. And then finally, the Permian, we're starting to see things that they don't quite look like dinosaurs, but they're what may become dinosaurs. And because Pangea is pulled together, it's a drier climate, so reptiles get favored over amphibians. Amphibians have to go back to water to lay their eggs. Think of like frogs. Whereas reptiles, they may live in the water, but they actually go on land to lay their eggs, because reptile eggs have a shell. It's kind of a leathery shell, but it's a shell nonetheless that keeps the moisture in. Amphibians don't have that. And a frog egg, if it's not in the water, it will dry out. So the advantage that the reptiles had is that now that there's such a dry climate with the supercontinent Pangea, that they can live in a lot more places, and they kind of start to take over. And then bad things happen. The Siberian traps wipes out most of the animals on the planet at the end of the Permian. So anyway, you could get your ideas off this book, off this page. You could look back in this section. It talks about the Paleozoic era and some of the animals and plants that are there. You could just Google animals of the Ordovician, and it's going to give you a whole bunch of probably freaky looking things that are cooler probably than the ones in the book. So have fun with that. Show me your skills. I know you all have mad art skills. I've seen your work hanging in the hallways. So add color, do the best you can. For today, I want you to just focus on 2 in each of the Paleozoic periods. Okay, have fun. See you Monday.